What we grow our crops in is probably the most important part of having a successful garden season. In my first year growing food, I didn't really understand the difference between topsoil, compost, or potting mix. All I knew was plants grew in dirt and they needed fertilizer. So I bought what was reasonably priced and hoped for the best. Needless to say, I spent much of that season amending the soil with not a lot of return on my investment. In this episode, I want to talk about the difference between soil and dirt, as well as give you some ways to prepare your garden soil for a productive season. Welcome to the Garden Things with Friends podcast. We're here to show that building a thriving garden is possible for everyone, even those with busy schedules and long to-do lists. I'm Ashley, your host, and 2 years ago, I turned my garden dreams into reality in my suburban backyard. Through trial and error over the next 2 seasons, I've created a thriving garden that I love. My goal is to inspire you to create your dream garden too. So let's grow together. Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, I want to do a deep dive into the composition of soil and really help you get an understanding for how you can evaluate the soil in your garden, as well as prepare it for the season. In society, soil and dirt are often used interchangeably. But when it comes down to building the space we will eventually grow our crops, we want to make sure we understand the distinction. We can't simply dig a hole in the ground, plant a tomato plant, and expect a bountiful harvest. Now, while we could get lucky and have decent results, depending on the makeup of our soil in that hole, we'd get vastly different results. Understanding your soil's composition is key to creating a healthy and thriving garden space. So let's take a moment to look at some definitions for both soil and dirt, and then do a comparison of the two. Now, according to the Soil Science Society of America, soil is unconsolidated mineral or organic material in the immediate surface of the earth that serves as a natural medium for the growth of land plants. That's a tongue twister. So let's break it down a little bit more. Soil is made up of 3 main components: minerals, organic matter, and living organisms. Minerals provide essential nutrients for plants to grow, while organic matter helps improve soil structure, manage moisture, and fuel organisms in the soil. Living organisms such as bacteria, microorganisms, and worms can help break down that organic matter into usable nutrients for our plants. Now, when gardeners describe soil, we often describe it as sandy, clay, or loamy. And this is going to refer to the texture of that soil. And it's determined by the mineral particle size of the soil. And these minerals are derived from rock that has been broken down over a long period of time. Now, the largest mineral particles are going to be sand particles. Soil with a high sand content is going to feel really gritty, and it is going to drain water very quickly. Silt particles are the next smallest, and they feel a little bit like flour. Clay particles are going to be our finest particles. This is the type of soil that we have here in northern Alabama. It compacts so easily, and water often drains really slowly through this type of soil. Now, the proportion of these 3 mineral particle sizes is going to determine the texture of your soil. And there are many different proportions, and a lot of plants prefer a certain type of proportion. But a loamy soil is what is most common for garden plants, and it consists of about a 40-40-20 sand to silt to clay ratio with included organic matter. Dirt, on the other hand, is a constituent of soil. It doesn't include organic matter or living organisms that soil contains. It's often thought of as a part of soil that is not beneficial for plant growth. Dirt is basically the sand, silt, and clay of soil. Soil that has been depleted of nutrients, eroded, or polluted can all be considered dirt. Now that we understand the difference between soil and dirt, let's talk about how to prepare our garden soil for a bountiful gardening season. And this is a great place to talk about the 3 main types of gardening that can be done and how each of those are affected by the native soil. And those three types of gardening that we're going to discuss are in-ground gardening, container gardening, and raised bed gardening. The first type of gardening, and probably the most affected by soil quality, is in-ground gardening. This type of gardening involves planting directly into the ground, and you're going to be relying solely on the native soil for nutrients and moisture. In this case, it's important to test your soil and amend it as needed to ensure that your plants have everything they need to thrive. Container gardening involves using pots or containers filled with potting mix, which is generally a mix of various types of soil and organic and inorganic matter. Since the plants are not planted directly into the ground, it's important to choose a high-quality potting mix that has good drainage and nutrient retention. And the last type of gardening that we're going to discuss is raised bed gardening. Now, with raised bed gardening, this is going to involve creating a garden bed above the native soil, often using a mixture of topsoil, compost, and other organic materials. This type of gardening allows for a lot of control over the soil quality and can be ideal for growing crops that require specific soil conditions. Now, if you're using in-ground gardening or raised beds with old soil, testing is a great way to prepare your garden for the new season. Prior to amending, it's a great idea to test your soil for mineral availability, pH, and organic matter. This testing can help you determine the exact nutrients your soil is lacking and what amendments to add for optimal plant growth. Now, if you're planning to test your soil this year, there are three basic methods of getting that done. First, you can use a home soil test. These are readily available at most garden centers, but they may not be as accurate or detailed. Next, you can get a soil test done with your local extension office. These are often free or low-cost option, and they give you a wealth of knowledge, but they can take a long time to get completed. Lastly, you can use a soil test like Soil Kit, which is a quick and easy way to get a detailed soil test that is easily digestible with the information you want. And I'll link to Soil Kit below. Once you have your test results, it's time to amend your soil. Adding organic matter such as high-quality, fully broken down compost can improve soil structure and add valuable nutrients. You can also use fertilizers to provide specific nutrients that may be lacking in your soil. With your soil amended and ready to go, you can now confidently plant your garden and watch it thrive. Remember, understanding the composition of your soil is key to creating a healthy and successful garden. All right, y'all, that's all for this episode. I hope you are feeling confident about preparing your soil this season. Be sure to follow me on TikTok at Mom Jeans and Garden Things, as I'm always sharing about what's growing on my garden daily and what I'm doing to prepare my garden this season. Now, if you've dug this episode, I would be honored if you would rate the podcast and spread the word to your friends who are also passionate about gardening. Your 5-star support fuels the growth of Garden Things with Friends, and together we'll cultivate a network of thriving gardens and plant-loving friends. Happy gardening, and remember, it's never the wrong time to grow where you are.